My name's Jody, and I am Trixie Tricycle on both YouTube and on Instagram. And this is my second Flosstube episode. Today is April 27th, and if all goes well, I will probably upload this tomorrow. So you'll be seeing it a little after. So I have lots of stuff to share today, but I wanted to start out and just kind of give an update on what I've been doing for the last couple weeks. Specifically, like in the last 5 or 6 days. I had a birthday, which nobody outside of my family really knew about. I didn't share that. But it was one of the more memorable birthdays for a couple of reasons. First of all, we were able to, my husband and I were able to have dinner at our house with my parents. They do live locally, but we've just been super careful. We're all fully vaccinated and out past that 2-week mark. So that was really great. It's been a long time since we've been able to have them over. And then the next night we did the same thing, but we went to his mom's house. So that has been a huge relief and just a little tiny piece of normalcy. So that was a good birthday gift. But Flosstube related birthday gifts, which you didn't even know you were giving me, but I don't even know how to verbalize. I mean, I literally thought when I made my first video that it would be, you know, for me to track my progress and for my, you know, mom and husband and me to see, and no idea that anybody would even find it. So the response was a little overwhelming. Like I mentioned in my last Flosstube, being out, especially on social media, is not my, it's not in my wheelhouse. And so I'm not even sure how to navigate some of those apps, as you'll see. But there were a few people who I really want to just say thank you to, and they kind of happen to be people that I very much look up to on Flosstube and have learned a ton from, and who I'm just sort of overwhelmed that they took the time and reached out and put a little, you know, magnifying lens on my little baby channel. So the first person that I want to acknowledge is the very first person that subscribed and wrote a comment on my Flosstube. I think that probably takes a little bit of bravery too, just to be like, oh, this person has no subscribers and nobody's ever seen them before, but they're probably not weird. Maybe I'll, you know, just put my name to them. And so her name is Fran, and Fran, you know, she watched the whole video and she commented on a number of things that were throughout them. And specifically at the beginning, she said that she'd never made a Flosstube video before, but that she's thinking about it. So if I have to share anything, Fran, it's thank you and make a video, because I will subscribe and follow and be your undying fan. So, and then, you know, I kind of went to work and was busy stitching and was, you know, doing all kinds of busy prep things for family stuff and just working in the yard and hanging out with our 2 dogs and doing normal things. And then I woke up one morning and there was a comment on my video, and it was Betsy Klager, who, if you guys don't watch her, you need to go watch her, because she is hysterically funny and she stitches beautiful things, and she is extremely generous with her time and attention when it comes to other, especially smaller Flosstubers, and she's great. But she said, Nikki Noodles sent me, and yes, we can be best friends, which I jokingly wrote in my description of my last video, which was an epic tome of details that I included about all the content of my last video. I'll probably just continue to do that because it seems to work for me, and that way I have a record of what I can, you know, go back and look. Did I already share this, or is this something new? Or and then she told Darcy Cameron, who I love, I already mentioned that, my swears muse, and she told Ellen Reed, and then Ellen Reed said, "You swear?" and wrote a comment on my video and said that she subscribed, and then I just had to lay down for a while because you know, I'm trying not to fangirl too hard over all of this. You guys. So anyway, I'm not gonna, I don't want to belabor it, but I'm very grateful. Betsy wrote a post on her Instagram and directed a lot of traffic, you know, and again, with Instagram, like, I don't even know how to, I'm still trying to figure out stories, which you'll see I have not posted any stories because I can't quite determine, that's my next big project. I'm working on figuring out software editing or video editing software, and now maybe next time I'll figure out how to actually make an Instagram story. But I hadn't even linked my YouTube channel to my Instagram, and maybe there was a subconscious, you know, like, maybe if I don't make a lot of noise, nobody will see me over here. Anyway, she took care of that. So thank you to everybody who has written notes and liked photos of projects that, you know, that I've either recently finished or have just been, you know, I had posted a couple months ago or whatever. Everyone has been incredibly kind and incredibly supportive, and I knew you were all my people, and you just all confirmed it. So thank you. And that's all I have to say about that right now. Now to the stitchy stuff. So I wanted to quickly go through kind of my floss storage organization for my DMC. I briefly mentioned that last video, and a couple people said, yeah, that I would actually be interested to see how you did that. So I thought I would just quickly run through what I did. When I first started procuring, you know, cross-stitch miscellany, I had bought some DMC for the dragon piece that I did on that black Ada that I showed last week. And I was using, you know, I just kind of did the thing that everybody does where you just bobbinate everything, and then found that, like, okay, now I got to take a piece off and cut it to length, and then I have to separate it out, and then I got to wind it back up again so I don't lose it because dogs, and it, you know, I didn't want it to get everywhere. And then it ends up getting kind of, you get that little kink thing happening. And so I was like, okay. And then watching Teresa Little Stitcher, she was kind of keying in on the fact that she was going through and slowly debobbinating her DMC. And she had a system that she referred to a few times, and I can't remember what it was. I think maybe Annie's Keepers, which is a cool system, but excuse me, cost-wise, they're, you know, if you're going to be doing it for a large collection of floss, it can be a little cost prohibitive, and it takes up a fair amount of room. And I was just sort of musing in my head, like, you know, is there a way that I can sort of be efficient about the storage and also have it in a way that I can continue to use it in perpetuity, the way that it's organized in whatever storage container it's going to be used in. So I bought a pattern, and I'm going to save that for another episode, but I bought a Heaven and Earth Designs pattern, and it's a full you know, Max Colors, it's great. I'm looking forward to actually really getting into it, nerds. I've done a tiny start on it, but it had 239 DMC colors. And at that point I thought I maybe should just buy the set. It made some sense as an investment. Couldn't get anywhere really to go and purchase them in person. Needed pretty much more than half of the collection just for that one project. And looking online, there were a few places that I could just buy the entire DMC collection as it is. And, you know, shop some deals and ended up getting a relatively good sale. And I went ahead and just bought the whole DMC collection because that way I will always have them and then I can just replenish as I go. So, I have notes. So this is what I ended up coming up with. And I did show this briefly the last time. I wanted to have the ability to just pull one strand, you know, with a needle, and just pull that straight out and then have it be long enough, the right length, so that I could use it in a loop start. So that was the first consideration that I had. And DMC comes in 8-meter length skeins, or it's 8.7 yards. A meter is, I think it's 39, is that right? 39 inches. So, you know, 39 times 8, do the math. And then I just divided it to get it as close as I could to twice my arm length, which that's kind of what everybody always says. It's like, oh yeah, just pull it out to the, you know, so that it fits from your fingertip to your elbow. So that was around 16, 18 inches. And so you double that and that ends up being 32. The closest that I got was to divide this evenly and to get a full skein evenly divided was about 31 inches. So I went up to the garage. Wait for it, guys. It's pretty. It's a real pretty. This is a 2x4. A literal piece of wood 2x4 that was just long enough. I had some black fabric that I it's really, these are thumbtacks. Yep, thumbtacks. And then I folded it, the fabric, kind of like you would if you were going to be wrapping a present, like a really poorly wrapped present. Just do trust. Anyway, and then I hammered some, these are like massive, big old construction nails. And I hammered them so that they are 31 inches apart. So that was my guide. The cool part about this is that, you know, zombie apocalypse, I'm ready. Don't keep this around kids. Flosstube safety tip number 2. If you have kids, don't keep a 2x4 with just exposed nails in your house. I keep mine kind of hidden away, but even without, you know, we don't have kids. We just have dogs. But I do try to keep it somewhat out of the way because I will trip on it and somehow manage to injure myself on that. Anyway, so then you take your DMC skein and you keep the portion that has the color label. 3362. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So anyway, you know what they look like. To find, let's see, these guys, I said that last week that these are basically like little stickers. And they're little adhesives. They are for retail displays. You can buy them in big strips like this, and they have a sticky back. You need 2 for each skein, because when you pull these apart, this is the sticky part right here, and you sandwich those together. After you cut out this little section to the correct size. So that's basically what I have here, is just, it's the label that comes off of the floss and then it goes in here. That, instead of just writing on it or relying on keeping this on like a hook that's labeled, that's got the right DMC color on it, this is always just going to be here. And then I can just take this off of where I have it stored, which I'm going to show you in a second, and then I can put it onto a floss ring and it's good to go. So that is how I have them stored. These are portable file boxes. They're just big plastic. They're wide enough that a file folder hangs on the interior top of the box. And inside, I have a series of these. So these are just the tops of file folders, and I've cut those off, and then I reused the file folder for some other project miscellaneous detritus that I have around the house. And then I have these, just I took a hole punch. Yeah, it took forever. This whole thing took me about a week to just complete the whole thing. And then I put them on these little baby 3/4 inch binder rings. And when that fits, see how it's too long? So I just wrap that up onto itself, and so they're stored this way, and that way they don't drag on the bottom of the file cabinet box. They don't get in each other's way. It's easy to keep them stored, and they keeps them nice and neat. And then that way, when I'm, when I'm kitting up something, I can go in, they're all in order, in numerical order. I have 2 of those file boxes. That's how much space it takes, is 2 of these, with probably 12, maybe a dozen or so of these file folder tops, and they're all just full of DMC. When I take one out, I will put a little, what I did is I actually started using the bobbins that I pulled everything off of, and I would just write the number on it. And it was just a placeholder, so that I knew if I went in there and looked, it's like, do I have 801? It's out and it's in a different project. And what I started doing later, and some of these don't show it, but I started actually writing on there which project it was in. To begin with, I had like 2 works in progress, so it didn't matter. Now it's getting a little bit harder to track where that stuff is, because I'm starting to kit more things. Now, if it's a floss that you use fairly frequently, like Barbara Anna, I think it's 3370, is it 3371? Is that dark brown? She uses it in almost every single one of her projects. So if I have a couple of those going, I will just make 2 of these, one with, but for the most part, if I'm going to be using a lot of one particular color of floss, I will just add that. I'll just, loop it around, and then I'll do another one, and then I cut at each end and I pull it in half, and then I do a little hose knot around, keep it in place. I'm explaining this not great. These little rings that I put onto the file folder tops, I started out with 3/4 inch size. I thought just, for space, and I bought just in quantity. I bought them on Amazon. I bought probably the cheapest ones. Don't do that. First of all, I would go with a 1 inch because it's much easier to open. They just basically open and pull apart. If they're really cheap, you're going to find that about 10% of them, the hinge isn't going to work. They won't open at all. So, buy the next cheapest kind. But I would also go for the 1 inch, because trying to open those little baby 3/4 inch, they're really tight, and my fingers were really sore. So if you do have trouble opening them, tools are good. right? So a couple of little needle nose pliers. If you just take that and then take the other one, then you can actually use a tool to pull them apart. I found that out after I had little calluses on the ends of my fingers and couldn't feel my fingertips for a couple weeks after I finished this project. So, pro tip, use tools. All right. So anyway, that's kind of how I store my DMC. And I don't think I need to go in too much detail beyond that. For those little space holders, and also I use these on, you know, if I put a series of, you know, or if I put a whole collection of flosses for a project on one of these big binder rings, this is a 3-inch binder ring, I'll usually label what the project is, and I'll show you that as we go through some of my stuff today. But these, I just cut up the kind of harder, like the heavier cardboard envelopes, the mailer envelopes that I get stash in. And so if someone sends me one of those, I just cut it up. I have a swing line, like paper cutter, like the kind that you used to have in your 6th grade or 3rd grade class, you know, the kind of, yeah, I have one of those. I love it. But I use it for a lot of stuff. And then, so then I can just cut these up and put a little hole punch in there, and then I can. Okay. So I am going to give you a little, I want you to go onto Instagram and take a look at purling stones and cross stitches. And they shared some photos and a little description of how they do the same floss storage, but for their over-dyed or hand-dyed flosses, and it's brilliant. I'll link that, and go take a look. It's super cool, and thank you for letting me share. I did reach out and make sure that it was okay if I shared their post, and so thank you. All right. I'm going to clear that out of the way, and we are going to move on to some previous finishes. These are some things that I finished over, you know, well, since September, you know, because that's only as long as I've been doing this. And if this is the first time you've watched, if you didn't watch last week, I did share some other previous finishes. So this isn't everything that I've done, but I just didn't want to show them all at the same time. So, excuse my reach. I'm just over here stretching. This is on my Instagram also, if you go back a little ways, but I'll put a picture of it. I'll put a picture of it over here. Over here. See? I'm never gonna. Jacob, Modern Folk Embroidery. This is underneath the Christmas tree. I made this as a Christmas gift for my mother-in-law, and I finished it into that pillow. And this I stitched on. This is just like this is a DMC fabric. It is 28 count in the color sand. I think I got this at hello, can you see? There we go. I got this at Joann. It just came in a roll. It's really loose. It's kind of a loose weave. But it was okay. I mean, it worked fine. It's relatively small, kind of rustic. I really like that pattern. And her sort of design aesthetic is very Nordic. So anyway, crafting for gifts is a weird thing for me. I finished it with this hand-dyed wool from Primitive Gatherings. This was in Kitten Stitcher's store. And they came in like little, I mean, they're just these little squares. That's how they come. So the stitching on the back where I joined those together, it was just to make it big enough so that it would be proportional and put a little charm on it. And, stuffed it with crushed walnut shells. And if I had to do it over again, what I would do is I would actually put a little interfacing on the back of the wool. I did put interfacing on the back of the cross stitch just to keep everything together, again, because of that looser weave. But one thing you learn after you haven't done this for a long time is that wool is stretchy. And so getting that seam to match up in the back, I was pretty, let's just say I was stoked when I was finally able to get that matched up. So that's one. The next one, this is by Primitive Hare, and this is Midnight. And here it is. So this is stitched all the called for. And I just recharted what was on the tombstone. It still has the bird. These particular skeins of those colors tended to blend together. I just really like it. I think it's pretty, but you can't see the bird quite as well as you can, or whatever that little, if it's just a motif or maybe, I'm not sure exactly, but on the pattern, I think you can see it a little bit better. And I stitched that's 30 count Old Salem, and that's Primitive Hare fabric with the called for weeks and Gentle Arts fabrics. The next one is the one that everybody was doing at Thanksgiving or thereabouts last year. And I saw it and fell in love with it and bought it immediately. But Lindy stitches Dracula's Confession, and she charted it 2 different ways. So she could either do a horizontal or you could do it the vertical. And I went ahead and went with the vertical. And I stitched this on, it's 28 count Murky Lugana with all of the called for flosses. And then I just put it in a frame, a la Kitten Stitcher's framing tutorial that I linked last week. And then just put a little craft paper, and I just have it leaning. Usually I have it up behind me, but I had to put other stuff up there since I had this all down. Okay, so those are my previous finishes that I wanted to share this week. So I did have a fully finished object that I did. Last week I showed you my Costa Rica coffee pattern, my full coverage pattern that I stitched on Ada, and I went ahead and it's quasi finished actually, let's just put it that way. I went ahead and put, I just laced it over some foam board, put a couple magnets on it, and I wrapped, this is like a kind of a jute, I'll show you. It's just like, it's almost like yard twine that you would use to, I guess, tie up trees or tomatoes. Anyway, that's what I used. So I just wrapped it around a few times, used some Dritz pins, and just sort of finished it so it looks like it's, you know, maybe like a little burlap coffee bag or something. But that came out kind of cute. So, you know, it didn't take anything away from it. I might think about framing it in a little bit better way. This is just, you know, again, it's just kind of magneted onto this picture frame. So put it in our coffee bar or something. And that again was on 18 count Ada with called for DMC, and that was Heritage Charts on Etsy. Okay. Finishes. I had a finish. I had a start and a finish. I was kind of excited about it. And I did actually, yeah, so Brenda and Laura are going to be, you know, they've been talking about the upcoming, like, first weekend in May, on the Blackbird Designs weekend stitch along. So any Blackbird Design chart that you want to do, stitch on the weekend, use the hashtag BBD weekend SAL. And last time I talked about wanting to stitch the remainder, or thinking about stitching the remainder of the Magical Mystery Tour charts. And I'd already finished, this was a previous finish that I had. This was Blackbird, and that Blackbird, and I didn't pull the, I should have pulled out the chart, but I didn't. So that's Blackbird Designs Blackbird, and it's stitched on Fallen Leaves. And this was dyed by Jody, Steel City Stitchers Jody. So I had one done, and I started Eleanor Rigby. So that's the, if you go by the series, this is actually the first chart in the series of the Magical Mystery Tour series. So I stitched this on 36 count nougat with the called for weeks die works, and there it is. So I really like that chart. And Stitchy Witch 42 on Instagram, she has a Flosstube also. She mentioned in my comments when I posted that I was starting this, that she had actually used for the date the year that Revolver was released, which is 1966, and that's the album it's on. And I was like, that feels right. That feels like the right thing. So I went ahead and did the same thing. So thank you, Stitchy Witch 42. Anyway, so that's my finish. All right, and I'm going to go into works in progress, but I wanted to, that actually kind of reminds me, because and this may be a little early for me in my Flosstube journey to be kind of wading into controversy. But far be it from me to back down from a fight. And so Nikki Noodles, who I mentioned before, who I love with the fury of 1,000 suns, has been sort of embroiled in a little bit of online difference of opinion. And I would say that I think you guys know where I stand on this, but the topic is to Beatles or not to Beatles. So I'm on Team Beatles. Nikki's not a huge fan of the Beatles. She did, disclose that she's not really a huge Beatles fan, as did Nicola Bumble Stitches. So people are being forthcoming with, their leanings on the Beatles. Betsy firmly in the Beatles camp. So here's my question. How does that fall in line with people who prefer pineapple on their pizza versus not? I'm curious what that nexus looks like. Is there, if you like the Beatles, do you like pineapple on your pizza? Because I do. We may have to do a survey to get to the bottom of this. But just to be clear, while I may be Team Beatles, I am 100,000% Team Nikki, and that is a hill I will die on. So, okay, works in progress. I showed you last week this floral, project bag that I made. And this is Whilst Iris Naps, and Logan, 1840. And I'm stitching this on 38 count Wayfarer's Cloak with the called for weak stye works. And I made a little bit of progress. I'm not, you know, let's see how this goes here. And, you know, sometimes I feel like this might take a little bit longer than it needs to, but then you can see all the things. Okay, so I got through the section with all of the eyelets, and now I'm up into the family initials. And I'm going to keep them as they were charted by Anne Logan. The one exception that I did make was right here. Instead of the SS, I went ahead and stitched SO in honor of Molly Shannon's Saturday Night Live character, Sally O'Malley, who's 50 years old, and she can kick, stretch, and kick. She's 50. So that's the change that I made to that. Honey Bunny, and this is the this came from, okay, and I did learn a little bit about the Be Well and Stitch hashtag and all of those patterns. Those, as I understand it, again, I'm new, sorry, but I guess, you know, a year ago at this time there were a number of designers that released free patterns, kind of in light of the fact that a lot of people were going to be staying home, trying to stay healthy. And so hashtag Be Well and Stitch is not the name of the pattern or the set. It's just that that was the hashtag that people were using for the free patterns that they released. And so the free pattern, or one of them, that the Black Needle Society released was Honey Bunny. Which I can put the picture of that original chart photo in here because they actually did have an image that I was able to put into my last video. So I am doing my own take on it, inspired by Pulp Fiction. So Yolanda, Be Cool, Honey Bunny. So I did make a little bit of progress, got her dress done, got her little fur done, starting to work on her eye, put in that flower, and I got the Papa Tomato, Mama Tomato, Baby Tomato. They still need a little bit of work, and I'm working on the bee. I tried to put that in with a little bit of metallic thread, was not successful, so I went ahead and pulled that out. We'll start over again. But anyway, so that's where I'm at with that, still working on it. And then I'm just using my own pulled flosses, just sort of a random hodgepodge. If you hear a scratchy noise, that's one of my dogs who's below me. He's got what you doing, dude? This is a small room. There are two dogs in here. The one is a almost 13-year-old yellow lab, and she's crashed out. And then I have a small Corgi Pitbull mix named Charlie. And she'll make an appearance at some point. But they're both, as small as the space is, I have a massive bolstered dog bed for Ella, our yellow lab. And then under the desk, I've got another smaller but appropriately sized bolstered dog bed for Charlie with a blanket, and he likes to burrow under there and sleep. But right now he's digging on the carpet to try and somehow make that comfortable. Go sleep on your bed, bro. I love my dogs. By the way, that Honey Bunny was stitched, it's being stitched on 32 count broomstick linen by XG Design, 2/2. Next up is yeah, I made a little a little bit of progress on this one. This is a Reflet de Soie. G. Leger 1898. This is again, this is that gum wrapper fabric project bag that I made. I don't think I showed you the inside. Doesn't that remind you of Fruit Stripe? It's like the chewing gum project bag. Fruit Stripe gum was great. But it's kind of like Juicy Fruit, where it's good for like 11.5 seconds, and then the flavor is completely gone, and then it's just jaw exercises. All right, so Reflet de Soie, G. Leger, 1898. And I am doing it on 36 count haunted linen by Picture This Plus. It's a little bit big. Can you see it? I feel like that may be blowing out just a little bit. Anyway, I kind of cheated. The progress I did is I skipped some letters and I finished this side of the border, went all the way down, finished those leaves, and then I kind of cheated over and got going on this pear. Because I like dessert first. Anyway, and I got brave enough. Look, Laura, I cut my fabric. I cut it now that I know that it's gonna fit. Yay. So I'm loving that. It's really, really fun to stitch. The silk is really very nice to stitch with, and yeah, I like it a lot. I'm glad that I decided to do that. And the more stuff that gets put on that fabric, the more I like that pattern on that. Okay. So those are the things that I am working on. There's a couple things that I'm going to do in May. One is that I'm going to complete the other 4 Beatles. Well, I'm going to start them. I'm not going to complete them. I can't guarantee I'll complete them. This last weekend was sort of unusual that I was able to have a lot of time to stitch for Eleanor Rigby, but that's not usually how my schedules go, or schedule for each week goes. So, but I am going to start each weekend in May. I'm going to start one of those 4 Blackbird designs, the magical mystery toolers. So I'll just show you those right now. And I did pull out the fabric this time, so you guys can help me decide if that's something that, if they look okay or whatever. So so the first one, Strawberry Fields Forever, that will be one that I start, and that one I am doing on 32 count. This is oh, for the love of Jeff. This is 32 count Honey by Bestitch Me. And this is the piece actually that I started Reflet de Soie when I was, all full of myself and thinking I could do 1/1. See, that's the that's my start. But anyway, so this is Honey by Bestitch Me, and I am okay. Doo, 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 doo. I think that's kind of pretty. I think that'll look nice. I don't have the called for floss, or called for Strawberry Fields. Can't remember. Oh yeah, no, I don't have that one. But I do have this. So Honey by Stitch Me, and I do belong to her Fabric of the Month club. She makes beautiful fabric, and it's very nice. It's like, it's got a really good, it's fun to stitch on. So anyway, that is Strawberry Fields Forever. Some of these floss rings don't have every single color yet because they are shared by a number of these patterns, and so they're in the other, they're still in with the other patterns or other charts at this point in those projects. Long and Winding Road. This one. Let's see if I can keep this from falling down. What do you think, guys? I am bound and determined not to do too much editing this time. Ha, there we go. All right. So this is Prairie Grass by Seraphim, and this is 32 count. It's got a little bit of modeling. It's really subtle, but I like it with this fabric. Just keep it kind of neutral. And I think that the called for on this one, was this the one? Yeah, so this calls for 36 count Butter Pecan by Lakeside Linen. So, Lakeside Linen, to a fairly new stitcher, somebody like me, who didn't really enter the fray until fabric shortages were pretty prevalent. We don't believe that there's such a thing as Lakeside Linen. Lakeside Linen is the Snuffleupagus of linen. It's the Snuffleupagus of fabrics. Sure, Big Bird. You've got this beautiful piece of fabric, I know. Uh-huh. My dream is to one day walk into an actual cross-stitch store and to find a piece of Lakeside Linen and be able to touch it. Anyway, I'm using this beautiful Seraphim piece of fabric. That's the cool thing about it, is that you've got all of these different people, you know, Jody and from Steel City, and everybody's like dyeing fabrics and doing all these amazing things, and that's very cool. So don't get me wrong. I just don't believe that it actually exists. Octopuses Garden. It's so fun. How cute. This one is Picture This Plus, and this is also a 32 count. But this is Picture This Plus Tarnish. And isn't that pretty? It's again, it's really subtle modeling. I think when colors are really bright and you've got a really kind of a complex pattern like that one, or it's not busy, but just there's a lot going on. I like it when the variation is a little bit, it's a little more subtle. Anyway, I love that. I think that's going to be pretty cute. I'm excited to start that one. And one more. Can you guess? Yellow Submarine. This is similar to tarnish, but a little bit lighter, and just for those really bright colors. I think this one's going to be really beautiful. So this is 28 count Dusk. And this is Speak of the Devil by Jody, Steel City Stitchers, upon whose wait list I sit. I'm really happy that she is getting all of the accolades and all of the things, because her fabric is beautiful. And I do have some of, obviously, I have some. Really? Anyway, but I like these, this is all the called for flosses. And this is actually a really good example. I wanted to, as a new person, and this is not a dig, but people have said, you know, there have been some floss tubers like, hey, if you're going to be using hand-dyed or over-dyed flosses and you need them for a relatively large project, buy as much as you need from one, if you can, kind of buy as much as you need at one time, or maybe even a little bit more, because the dye lots will change. And that is, in my mind, a benefit. That's not a downside. That's a good thing. Just because it makes your work really individual, and it makes it fun to be able to go through all of those flosses and sometimes pull something out that maybe isn't called for, but maybe is going to go a little bit better with whatever your fabric choice is. But I wanted to show you, this is a really distinct example of two different, and of course I'm wearing green, so that really helped a lot. Good thinking, Joan. Let's put it on this little whiteboard you made. Sweet. What a good idea. So this is the sampler threads by The Gentle Art, and these are both bayberry. So they're close in person. Let's see, this one is a little bit, it's darker, and it's also a little bit bluer. It's got a little bit more of a blue bent, and this one is a little bit more of an olive green. And they're both gorgeous, but again, like if you were to do something that you needed it, like if you did a whole row of grass and a large sampler, you know, and you got to a certain point and you ran out of of one of the skeins, and then you switched to something else, there would be a distinction there. There would be a line that would be, you know, it'd be kind of hard to miss. And so there's a few things that you could do, whether it's that you pull them both off and then you blend them together and use them, you know, try to randomize them as much as possible, or just get enough from one, you know, online seller or store or whatever, to do enough for your project. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. As I was going and pulling those yesterday, I was like, oh, that's a good example. Okay. Also in May, I think that my other plan is going to be during the week to finish the stitches that I'm already working on. So I've got the G Leger. I'd like to finish that. My goal is to finish that by the end of May. I think I can do it. And then I am also going to be, I got invited to do a stitch along with Nikki and Betsy and that is Joan Sands by Modern Folk Embroidery. I didn't print it up yet, but I went ahead and got that. We're starting that on May 15th, and so I need to decide on a fabric and pull some floss. So that'll be fun. I don't know what the hashtag's going to be yet. Those guys are, I'm just along for the ride. So May 15th, I'll be kicking that one off. All right, there is a floss tuber named Niecy Lynn, and Niecy Lynn lives in Texas, and I want to hang out with her so bad. She is so funny and so much fun to watch. And she has this great family, and she talks about her family, and she's very open with her life. And I just think she's so, so great. And she's got this great, very expressive face and talks about her grandbabies. And I just think she's great. So if you don't watch her, please go watch her. She's so good. She's so good. And she makes she's a beautiful stitcher. She stitches in hand, and she makes very nice holiday things. And she's got her home, you know, decorated in holiday motifs. And anyway, I feel like she's one of those people that you just watch and you feel like you know her. And yeah, she's great. But she did a giveaway. And I don't, you know, I typically don't put my name down for giveaways, or I don't write in the comments to try and get anything, because I got more than... If you guys, did you see Raising Arizona? They got more than they can handle. I have more than I can handle. When it comes to things, I have enough. I have enough to... I could stitch until I'm 150 and probably not get through the things that I have. But this one I entered because I was like, I love that sampler. And she was doing a giveaway for this chart, and it was an out of print Blackbird Design chart. It's called Sampler House. And that's the one and only thing that I've ever attempted to win, and I did not win it. So for the last however many months, I've had a YouTube search or eBay search just to look for, or, you know, Etsy, if anybody had this. Haven't found it. And just a few days ago, it was after my last video that I recorded, it popped up, and it was really reasonable, and it was a buy it now, and I bought it right then. And I have it, and it's in really beautiful shape, and it still has like little sticker residue, so it's not like a knockoff, it's real. Anyway, 2003. So I think it's so cute, and I don't know why. It's just super simple, and it's got that little palm tree, and it feels real beachy, and it's got that real tall house and those funky little letters, and oh, you see, I love it. And then I read, I'm gonna read this to you because I was like, ew. And I can't show it to you because it's, you know, that's where the chart is. I think Alma wrote this. It says, Mary Mahoney, my friend since nursing school, about 30 years now. And so this would have been in 2003, keep in mind. Mary Mahoney broke a bone and was suddenly homebound. No longer could she run around and go places. Her sister Katie and I came to her house one Sunday afternoon for a visit. I brought soup and salad. Katie brought homemade cinnamon bread made by her daughter. Yum. Our plans were to eat and stitch the afternoon away. Mary wanted to work on her beading project and learn how to cross-stitch on linen. Katie was hooking a floral rug. I was stitching a sampler to celebrate the birth of my son. It's never too late. He's only 19. We had our luncheon afterwards, settled in for the real fun. The companionship and friendship of these women warmed my heart. The laughter and stories we shared as we stitched made the time pass too quickly. This sampler house by Barb is dedicated to those times in our lives we share with others. May your homes be filled with samplers reminding you of companionship and friendship. And how like appropriate is that little dedication of this chart for right now? I mean, I'm hoping that at some point in the next year that I will actually be able to meet some of you crazy, awesome, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean like awesome people in person. Maybe in our homes, maybe at a retreat, maybe walking in the store, I don't know. But yeah, may our homes be full of samplers and friendship and companionship, and go get your vaccine so we can hang out and be safe together. Okay. Anyway, unicorn chart. That was that. Very happy. I mentioned that I do some very loosely termed knitting. And then I sort of have a thing for fingerless gloves, mostly just because they're a square. And then you just stitch a seam in them. So I made these. And I made them because they remind me of funfetti cake. So I thought I would pull these out. This is a hand-dyed yarn by Threads by Megan. So it's threadsbymegannicole.com, and she's also on Etsy and on Instagram. And I have purchased a few of her yarns, and they're really nice. She does a good job. She'll either, if she's got it in stock, she'll send it out right away. Otherwise, you just order it, and then when she dies, the next time you'll get it. But this is what, this colorway is dots, D-O-T-S, dots. And yeah. So anyway, I thought I would just share that. That's the little last bit of stitching. So another couple weeks, we'll be into May, and I'm just gonna kind of stitch along. The weather's really starting to get better. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, kind of in the Seattle area, and so I don't ever remember it being 80 degrees before my birthday in the entire time I was born here, and I don't ever remember it being that warm this early. It cooled off again, but it's been a really sort of mild spring. So our lilacs, I mean, that's always going to be a thing. Anyway, our lilacs are blooming, and I have a complicated relationship with lilacs because they are great. They're beautiful. They smell so good, and they only last like a week every year. And the rest of the time, they try to shoot, you know, all these little, you get all kinds of shoots up and around the plants, and they try to take off, you know, and take over your entire planting bed. And so you're always in a little bit of a battle. But today, when I get to have some in a vase, they're worth it. So anyway, thanks again, everybody, for watching and indulging me in my sharing of the stuff. I think the best part about having made my first video is that I have found so many new people, and I had whatever, my YouTube algorithm changed up, and I was able to find and see and respond to all kinds of really, really cool floss tubers. And I can't name everybody because if I leave somebody out, I will feel terrible. So I'm just going to keep doing my best to try and respond to your comments and to try not to embarrass anyone for putting their name on me. Anyway, I'm going to go and edit this and see if I can get it to upload. And if there's anything I've forgotten, I'll be back in a couple weeks so we can talk about it then. So be safe, be nice to each other, and have a happy day. Bye. Oh, also, I'm always going to have an oh also at the end because I forget everything. This is important though. I have stuff. I've got things that I would like to share and send out to people if they are interested in them. And so I'm thinking that maybe if we actually get to like, I don't remember what it was when I looked today. I think we were maybe like 250 subscribers on YouTube. If we get to like 500, I'll do a share. That's kind of what Niecy Lynn calls them. And I'll send it anywhere, but I'll try to come up with something good that we can talk about in the next one. So let's just kind of see how it goes. And if you like the video, like, subscribe, I never thought those words would ever come out of my mouth. It feels very foreign. I'm not going to say smash that like button. But it is funny. All right. Take care, you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.